And we're rolling. Hello, good day, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. This is a very, very special episode as I'm here with my one of my dearest friends from high school,
Aw, thank you.
Adam. And this has been teased quite a bit if you've listened to the other podcasts that we went to Algonquin not the college. We went to Algonquin Park. Went to Algonquin Park for a nice week of torture and hell and misery.
Yeah, it was great. Can I also say before we start that I really appreciate the creativity of your name for the podcast. The podcast, brilliant.
I'm gonna put you a little louder here.
Okay, thank you.
Oh fuck!
I'm sure this is where you're actually just cutting me off completely. But yes, we went hiking. It was initially supposed to be 5 days. We ended up just powering through the last day because, well, we were sick of it being pouring rain all the time, constantly. And also because while it was pouring rain, we were told it was too dry to start fires.
Well, yeah, there was during a fire ban, even though it rained 2 of the days.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like a park-wide thing, you know.
Yep.
So, or even like a county-wide or whatever. It was just fire bans everywhere. So, there's not much you can really do about that. I don't even know where to start. You know, we could start at the beginning. Start like when was the first time that we even talked about doing a big trip?
Well, we talked about it for a while, right? Like for a few years back.
It was always like,
one of these days we will.
Yeah. And then I guess in maybe in the winter one of us was like, let's just do it, man. And then I signed up for and then we arranged, time off and stuff, and then wait for the website to open for booking locations for backpacking. So this was a backpacking trip. It wasn't like a car camping or anything. It was hiking with a 45-pound backpack and uphill both ways in the wind, rain, snow, in a desert, just like your parents walked to school.
Yeah, eating packs of hot gravel, which is actually kind of what the food was like.
I don't know, man. Those mountain house things, they're way
not
better
bad.
than hot gravel now.
I mean, if you didn't have water, they're basically gravel. But it was January or February. I remember because I was in Quebec. But yeah, so we'd been on a lot of day hikes before.
Yeah, we have, and we did one test hike before this.
Yeah.
Which I feel like maybe we should have done more.
Yeah, and then I did a bunch of, when I was in high school, I did portage trips with my family where we would like canoe for a while, carry the canoes on our back for a bit more, and we'd be gone for a couple days. But that was easier because we had 6 people with us.
Yeah, you can kind of spread out the weights, and you're not always carrying the same thing. One person can be canoeing, and
then I did a bit more stuff like that in the military, and then I didn't do a hike, like a multi-day hike trip for a long time. I tried to plan one in Victoria to do the West Coast Trail, and we realized you needed to book it like a year in advance or something stupid, so that fell through.
We should probably book the next year soon then.
Yeah. And then you and I had been talking about this like every like for 2 or 3 years. We're like, we should plan something like this theoretically in the future.
Yeah, because we both wanted to do something, but we didn't know what that thing was.
Yeah.
And I feel like there was a long period of time that we maybe couldn't agree on it.
I remember we talked for a bit about climbing Mount Kilimanjaro.
Yes.
And I was like, I just don't like.
And you really want to do the West Coast Trail, which I think that's probably got to be our next thing. But I think I got to put on some more weight for that, though. Get a bit stronger, maybe.
I need to cut some weight. And I will sell you some of my weight. Just like we'll trade off.
And then for a while, I wanted to do a canoe trip up north that my grandfather did. I think all these things are going to be still on the list of things.
Yeah.
It's on the to-do list, but who knows when that stuff's going to happen.
I'd like to, by the time I die, have climbed a mountain on each continent.
That is totally doable, though.
Yeah, and they don't need to be big mountains, right?
Well, even in heck, man, you can do that when you retire and do it all in like 1 year.
Oh yeah.
But sooner than later, because how much time do you get off in your line of work?
Uh,
I could say that military,
Wait, I'm up to 25 days.
and you get like for every year you're in the military, do you get more time off?
No, like I think my next increase is at like my next increase is like at 20 or 25 years, and then it goes up to 35. But there's increases. I think when you first join, it's 15, and then it's 20, 25, and eventually you peak at 35. But I don't know that I would even be in long enough.
You're not even halfway there then.
No.
You're not. Does that start like right when you're in basic or
so
when you actually graduate?
So for me, it was different because like at RMC, you don't get any leave during the school year.
Right.
And then you don't get any, and then usually you have some kind of course in the summer. Either it's basic, or I did a French language course, and then I did a naval basic course. The one I did in the car while at RMC was CAP. Call it now Army Phase 2. But so basically, the way it works at RMC is you have the school year, you can't take leave, then you do 2 or 3 months of training in the summer, and then whatever's left is your leave. And then you get Christmas off and March break off. But you don't actually take leave days, and then you graduate and they give you, I think when you graduate you're at like 15 or 20 and you take that whenever,
so it just gets added on.
Because then at that point, so the leave you get at RMC is just whenever you're not in course or in classes, and they call it like there's a special, it's like special leave basically.
Gotcha.
And then when you graduate that from there, you just have your standard leave and you can take it whenever you want. Usually there's some extra days around Christmas that they kind of just throw at you. So that like if you take like, it usually ends up being something like if you take 3 days around Christmas, you end up with 2 weeks because everything else is a holiday. I think if you just join or if you don't do the military college, you just start off with like 15 or 20. I forget how many it is. You would have to look that up.
I should ask my brother, and he's in the Air Force, and he didn't go to.
But
he just went like applied, hopped right into basic training.
Yeah,
and then he did his schooling, I guess, through the military.
Yes, but it would typically, if you're in any kind of training, whether that's military college or basic, you can't take leave. You can't just take a week off basic and still graduate.
No, yeah. Heck, no, hell no. You'd get reamed for that, probably.
Oh, yeah, no.
Jeez.
If you just left basic, I think you could actually get charged.
Like, holy. You got to stick those 2 months out or whatever it is. Or 2. No.
All right, 3 months, I think, for basic. So for me, it was, aside from the military college days, it was, I think, 3 months for basic. Then it was 2.5 months for the common army phase, which my trade, you don't need to do that anymore even. And then it was 2.5 months for the basic Navy course, and then 4 or 5 months of like trade training, and then there was a French course somewhere along there.
All of that sounds awful.
Yeah, the basic course is shitty. The common army phase is shitty. The Navy course was actually fun.
That's why you're in the Navy. You're like, this is the one that works for me.
Literally, so like
I like water.
My trade, you could be posted. Like my trade works for Army, Air Force, or Navy, and literally the difference is in Army. If I was in Army, I would be in a swamp somewhere. And then
Awesome.
In the Navy, they're like, yeah, you got Halifax, Victoria, or Ottawa. I'm like,
I mean, that's kind of convenient because if you're in the Air Force, it would probably be what, like BC, Halifax, or like Trenton or something.
Yeah. There's one in Trenton. I think we have some people for that. There's some Army people also in Kingston. I think they have some in Moose Jaw. And then, basically everyone eventually ends up in Ottawa at some point. But yeah, if you're going to pick a place to live, like Victoria.
Don't live here.
I was going to say, well, no, like Victoria is the nicest place I've been with in the military.
I hear that the BC is like...
You can never expect to own property.
Yeah. If I'm supposed to go there next year now, and people are like, oh, you're not going to want to come back.
So when I moved there, the apartment I was staying in was a single bedroom apartment. It was the cheapest bedroom I could get, cheapest one I could get in Esquimalt.
What is that noise?
That's my laundry machine.
Oh.
And it was $950 a month. When I was there, it went up to $1,050. And then we looked back, and it's now over $2,000 a month for like a single bedroom. There was mice in the building.
That wasn't even that long ago, though. Like 4 years to 5 years.
Let's see. I left in.
It was before COVID.
It was 2016, 2017.
Oh, really? That long ago? Okay.
Jesus,
it's been a while. 6 years.
Wait, so I graduated 2014, 15, 16, 17. So actually, it would be 2018.
Okay, that makes more sense.
But anyways, so yeah, we planned this trip, and again, we've been talking about it for a while.
So with all that being said, yeah.
But like
you have a decent physical fitness background.
And then I gained like 30 pounds during COVID.
Well, I think everyone did except for me, to be honest. Pretty sure I lost weight.
Manage that. Yeah.
What's that? You're amazed that I managed that? Are you serious? Are you kidding? Are you
well, like I realized, like I think the one thing I didn't take account for that was, just getting to the office. I was walking several kilometers a day, right? Just between my work, between my everyday life, and that all disappeared when COVID hit, right? Mm-hmm. And you don't realize that that's however many calories, and then the way my fitness, I went to the gym at work, and I did mixed martial arts training. Both of those were no longer around. So then I started lifting weights in my basement. I had some dumbbells, but that's not really cutting anything. And then I drank a ton of beer. So much beer. Like I drank more beer that summer than I ever had.
Didn't you, like every time I would talk to you over Christmas, you're like, you would have stopped some exercise for like that 2 weeks, and you would say like, I gained 20 pounds over the Christmas break. I'm like, what the heck?
Oh yeah, because
stuff like that I can't even imagine. But I guess it depends on how much you drink and how your body metabolizes.
Yeah, I heard Christmas was always rough for me
because I don't drink at all.
Yeah, that's true.
And I look the same as I did 10 years ago.
Yeah, I know. In terms of like, yeah, I'm definitely bigger. But I switched from when I was younger. I basically only did cardio. I did martial arts, and I went running. Mm-hmm. And then
cross country Bell High School.
yeah, exactly. And then starting around COVID, I switched to doing a lot of weightlifting. Mm-hmm. So like I did gain weight, but I like to think that some of it was at least good.
Oh yeah, probably. But and now you're back.
Yeah.
To jiu-jitsu.
Yes. But anyway, so for our trip,
and then I assumed that I would be okay with the hiking and stuff, just with all my huge background of fitness and everything. But I was sorely mistaken, I think. But we planned it, so I had a marathon at the end of May, and then it was about 2 weeks after that or 10 days, I think, after that we left to go on the trip on like it was a Thursday or Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. It was supposed to be, but we cut out the Tuesday. So let's try to start at the beginning. It's been it's been like a month and a half at least, I think. So excuse my memory. I'm going to have to try to remember some things that happened and kind of play it back in my head. But I booked the campsites in February or March, and then we came around to the time, printed out the maps of the I don't even remember what the trail, Uplands Trail, Western Uplands Trail. And the goal was to hike the Loop 3, the hardest loop, or the longest, covering the longest distance. And
that was
we had it all planned and mapped out, and then we just got all of our stuff, parked the car, take some photos, say goodbye to hopes and dreams, and and start walking. And then after you cross one kind of nice wooden bridge, and then you get to the fork in the road. You go left, you go right, and we go left, started the trail, and immediately walk straight up a hill for at least 45 minutes. I swear. That whole first day was 100% uphill the whole time.
Oh, yeah. It was kind of because they recommend you go to the left, and there's a solid point there because it meant we basically got the hardest hills out on the first day. Like, or between the first 2 days, it was a lot of uphill.
God. The second day was the worst, one of the worst days of my life. I think you probably even realized that while we were doing it. I gave up on that day. But they want everyone to be walking the same direction because that way you're supposed to run into fewer people while you're walking and kind of get a better
then what was it? The first
experience in nature.
Was it the first day we couldn't find our spot? And we ended
that was every day.
They weren't always easy to find as we thought they were.
Well, so what happened on that one? For that one, for the other ones, I won't even try to explain. But for that first one, is that I booked a site. I clicked the site to book on the website, and it was site number 1. But it was in a different location on the website than it was in the actual, like, in real life. So we hiked up and we walked first campsite. We came up to a campsite number 12, and in my head, it was just, go directly to the site that I clicked when I booked on the website. So that's the site that I was convinced in my mind to go to. In hindsight, we should have went the other way because it was going to be a 100-meter walk instead of an extra 3 friggin' kilometers to get to this site.
Yeah.
The site, so we passed site 12 and then site 11. Then the next site was the one that we stayed up at, which was an unmarked site. So unmarked sites, I believe, are first come, first serve. Yeah. And there was already a dude there.
But it was a big site.
It was a big site, and he was kind enough to let us pitch our tents and stay there. And then turns out when I actually got talking to him over dinner, he was supposed to be at site number 12, and he couldn't find it.
Yeah.
And I was like, site number 12 is over there, dude. We passed it. So I just thought that was funny that he also couldn't find a site, and he just kind of pitched there. But getting to that site was also brutal because it was a not very well marked trail to get to. But that's probably because it was for, like, people canoeing and portaging through.
We ended up taking a wrong turn, like, and realizing we weren't actually on a path just in the middle of the woods.
Yeah, and thanks to my stupid mistake that I made months earlier, or stubbornness you could probably call it, that in the overall totality of the hike probably added an extra 5 kilometers of hiking just from that, because we had hiked about 10 or 11 kilometers to get to the fork where we can go to the site that we ended up going to, or we could go to the right in site number 1. Because I remember we got the sign because you stopped and took a picture of it.
Yeah.
And you were like, which way do we go? And I was like, oh, we're going this way. No doubt in my mind that we were going to the left. We should have went right, and added a lot of time to our day. But that was the end of day 1. And then we woke up, had breakfast as you do. And this day was going to be one of the longer days. Day 2 turned out it was going to be a 16-ish kilometer day. So not a walk in the park, but it's still relatively, difficult. And turns out it was more difficult than I thought it was going to be.
Well, we'll keep it by.
It was a lot of uphills.
Yeah, when we would say it's 16 kilometers. That's how you measure it on a map. Mm-hmm. It was up and downhill, either uphill or downhill constantly. So, on a map you've moved 20 meters, but you've actually gone down 50-meter hill.
Yeah, there's some of those uphills too are just you're climbing over boulders or climbing almost straight up like a 70-80 degree incline.
Or like the trail is like switching back and forth.
Yeah, some of it was brutal. It was just be really careful and watch your step.
Yeah.
Something that I didn't prepare for. I don't know if you did or didn't even know what to expect, honestly. And the people that I had talked to, because we are entering loop 2 at this point. So we're going from Murphy Lake to Pincher Lake, I think.
Pincher?
I think so. And then again, we didn't really. I think we saw one couple, and we passed a lot of campsites. But I was just getting so friggin' fed up because it was way harder than I thought it was, and I knew I was getting frustrated. I know you probably could tell that I was getting frustrated. And every time we would come to another incline or something, I would just yell "fuck" at the top of my lungs.
Yeah, see, basically, like the way part of what I was doing for training with this is I put on a 40-pound weight vest and just set a treadmill to be like at one of the steepest inclines and just walked for a half an hour or an hour, and I would do that once or twice a week, along with the other stuff I was doing. I feel like what I found, and maybe it's also because of the size difference between us, like you were generally faster than me, but once it became like going up and down hills with weight on, you definitely got frustrated a lot more.
Because I'm carrying a backpack that weighs half the weight that weighs half as much as I do.
Yeah. For me, it was less. So that I feel like that is something that, like, when you're planning in this, you should be aware of. If you're lighter, you might make it a lot easier on like day hikes, but you're not going to be as used to carrying that much weight.
And something that we figured we didn't even, that I was trying new things every day or every hike, is that my backpack was not fitting me correctly.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing. Way bigger than I thought. You can go to the store and try on 13 different backpacks, but until you have 14 pounds in them and you're walking up and down hills,
40.
You don't, 40 pounds in them walking up and down hills, you don't really know how that rucksack is gonna.
Did you actually weigh your bag to 40 pounds?
I think 42, something like that.
I would have thought mine was actually a bit heavier than that, but
yours might have been because you were carrying, or I feel like you were carrying more stuff than I was.
I also one big difference between us. I don't know how you managed to do all these hikes with barely drinking any water. But like we all had, we both had.
What are you talking? We both had 2 Nalgene's, and I drank 2 Nalgene's during my hike. That's
but like
completely reasonable.
But
I don't know how you drink
breakfast,
7 Nalgene's worth of water.
I would start off in the morning. I would drink a lot of water in the morning. I always do, and then I would fill both.
Here's how it goes.
And my one extra, like my 2 Nalgene's, and another 750. I would refill them all at lunch, and then refill them all at dinner. And you were going through like 1 a day, and I don't know how you did that.
2 a day at least.
And I was at like
you would
6.
have 1 Nalgene for breakfast plus whatever you put in your food.
Yeah.
1 Nalgene for one break. Then between break and lunch, you would probably have drank another one, and then for lunch you drink one. Then another break between the next section, you would have another one, and then you would have probably a full one for dinner. That's at least 6 Nalgene. That's 6 liters of water. When you break it down in terms of liters of water, you were having 6 to 7 a day, and I was probably having 2 to 3.
I feel like I'm actually on the healthier end there.
Maybe.
Like
probably. I don't know.
Anyways, and then after the second day, well, actually, first, one thing I liked about the trails in Algonquin, I'm not sure if it's just because they cleared out the underbrush, or a lot of the campsites had like wood pellets around, spread around, and the result is you would be swarmed with mosquitoes and bugs and all sorts of insects while hiking. And then the second you got to the actual campsite, it would they would all vanish.
Yeah, that was actually really nice.
And it was really nice. And it was kind of tough because like sometimes I'd be sitting around at the campsite and being like, as soon as I step off this thing,
it wasn't. Well, I did have the thermocell, and I don't know how much that actually helped.
I remember having this image, and he turns on this. Your thermocell, and it basically creates like a zone where mosquitoes and bugs can't enter, and I just kind of hear like a distant buzzing, like the way you can kind of hear like in the distance a very busy highway is just a constant noise. And then I look up and there's a cloud of mosquitoes.
Oh yeah, don't you remember the first night we were sitting at the lake and I had the thermocell beside me, and you're like, does that thing actually work? And we like looked up.
Yeah,
you could see them,
there was like a wall of mosquitoes just all at the edge,
like 10 feet away, just like
not able to enter. It's terrifying. You can just hear like
better than having them right beside your friggin' ears, man.
It was great. It was great. Anyways, then the third day it started to rain.
Well, the there were two things about that second day that it ended up being like 17 and a half kilometers.
Yeah.
And then we also couldn't figure out where the site was again.
Yeah, we ended up just like
and we went to Pincher 1, I think, but that's not where we were supposed to go. But I had a Garmin on me, and I sent my sister a message, and I was like, yeah, we can't find the site. And she just said, she replied and said, pick any of them. No one's booked on Pincher.
Yeah.
At all.
Well, yeah, no one booked because there was forest fires everywhere.
There's forest fires everywhere. It was gonna
rain.
be pouring rain. Yeah. It was calling for thunderstorms like that night.
Yeah.
I think like 5 or 10 minutes after we got to that first night, it started raining.
Yeah, well, like literally, I just like I barely even ate dinner. I just went in my thing and just sealed off and was like, I'll sleep until this is fucking over.
Yeah,
but
which I don't know how.
There's definitely for both of our tents, there was definitely a limit to what they mean by waterproof.
Mine was pretty waterproof, I think.
It started to get damp on the inside of mine.
Well, not on which inside, like on the inside of the rain fly, because it has a rain fly that doesn't leak. I mean, like I said, I've slept in that tent in all conditions.
No, it was like 99.9.
It didn't have a floor sheet.
Yeah, that might have helped. But I mean, like it was probably, if we weren't on a hill, it probably would have been flooding. We were kind of on like a little bump where we were. This was like pouring rain all day.
Well, we woke up the third day and it was pouring rain.
Yeah.
And there was like nothing you could do.
No.
And I think I have a picture of, or like videos on my phone of us just like crouched underneath the hammock tarp, heating up boiling water on my portable stove and stuff. Well, now you got to look back and laugh on it because you're like, wow, that was so crappy. And let's remember it.
We kind of got sick of it because I remember on the second day they kind of gave a range of when the rain might start, and we were both hoping that we'd at least be able to set up camp. I remember knocking, like I would, whenever I say, to bring good luck, knock on wood, and I probably knocked every tree we passed on the.
You knocked almost. If something you wasn't saying, it was either a dad joke, some stupid dad joke, or you would say, "Oh, I hope the trail's going to be clear. Knock on wood," and knocks on a tree. Like every
I was
5 to 10 minutes,
because I was like, it was
like,
supposed
hopefully
to.
This rain doesn't last long. Knock on wood.
It was supposed to start raining. Initially, they said at like noon or something. In which case, we'd have been walking all the second day in rain.
Yes, because on my Garmin, we could check the rain.
They pushed it. They kept pushing back. So it was like, let's pray that we can set up.
I'm starting to think I wasn't reading it correctly. Then also it measured the rain in inches.
Yeah,
it's in everything was in imperial, or right?
Yeah. So you
thought it was like Fahrenheit and it was in inches, and I was like 0.9 inches. That doesn't seem that bad. Yeah. Apparently that's like 24 millimeters. Which is a lot. And that was per 4-hour block. So that's my understanding of it. Anyways, it's like from 9 to 10, it's going to rain this much. And then from 10 to 2, it's going to rain this much. And I think the most that it said was like 1.8 or something, or 2 point something, which in our minds didn't seem like a lot, but if that was in centimeters or millimeters, that's a lot, it would have been like 50, 60 mils of rain, which is insane. And to be honest, that's kind of more what it felt like.
Yeah, no, it was a heck of a lot. So basically, and it really started to pour on the third day. But
the worst part was waking up in the pouring rain and putting away everything that you have into wet things. Like you're putting, I'm like putting the hammock into its bag and it's all soaked. Yeah. Same thing with you in the tent. And we tried to do it as quick as possible, but at that point there was no saving anything to keep it dry.
The other thing is it kind of like
you even had like super dry towels. You're like that. Yeah. I brought quick dry towels that'll never get wet. I brought a quick dry towel.
I dried off the inside of my tent with it and everything I had, then kind of left out thinking it would quick dry. It didn't, of course. Then the next day when it was sunny and not raining, I hung it up, and we hung it for like an hour.
Did it dry?
No, not at all.
Oh.
I wrung it out. I hung it up in the sun, thinking this will dry. This quick dry towel is not a quick dry towel. It's a fucking absorb everything and keep it in.
Like a sham wow.
But yeah. But so two things I think of that first of all, are the two things I have to say. So,
well, we should talk more about the third day being the worst day of our lives.
It was also the thing is, there's obviously pros and cons to any kind of like adventure hiking. The cons are the difficulty, and obviously that gets a lot worse with the rain. It's a lot more uncomfortable. It's a lot more difficult to move. You kind of start chafing very quickly. There's a lot more bugs. But the other thing is, it kind of removes all the pros, because you're hoping to, breathe some fresh air. You're not really. You're hoping to see some of the scenery. It's all covered with, you can't see, further than 20 feet in front of you. You're hoping to enjoy, well, maybe swimming, maybe sitting out. You can't. So not only does it make all the harder parts about hiking worse, it removes all the fun parts. Like in the future, I think if we were to plan another one of these and we looked at it and said it was going to rain the entire week we were gone, I would just say no. Like, what's the point? You're not getting anything out of it.
Yeah.
You're just suffering.
There were some nice views.
Yeah. Well, you can't. Yeah, but you can't see the views when it's raining.
I mean, you can.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Maybe you could. When it was pouring rain,
wet.
I was like looking out over. I know we're on top of a hill and there's a lake there and there's cliffs over there, and I would just see rain, in front of me. The other thing is, so
our third day was supposed to be the shortest day.
Yeah, we had planned like 2 long days, and then the third day was only supposed to be 5 kilometers, and then 2 more long days. And we said, because we didn't really want to stop in the rain.
We didn't want to stop in the rain. We figured might as well just try and get some ground and get to the next site, which is good because we got to that 5.5 kilometers to the lake we were supposed to be at. Couldn't find a campsite anywhere. No campsites. Looked on the map, there's supposed to be 2 campsites, and even looking when I went home and looked, there was supposed to be stuff there. Couldn't find anything. Nada. So we just kept going to the next lake over, which was called Rainbow Lake. So we went from Pincher to Rainbow.
And Pincher to Rainbow.
In the pouring rain the whole fucking time.
Yeah, so that ended up being a longer day. And then it was finally sunny. Then it like the rain broke while we were sleeping, basically. And when I say sleeping, like
so we got there. Actually, we searched around a couple of sites though too. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
And that hike had the most beaver crossings. And there's something that's in my head is that we crossed a river over a beaver dam, and I crossed first, and you were behind me, and all I remember is I just hearing you scream like the most deathly, like, ah! I was like, oh my god, Adam fell in the creek or the river. I like turn around, and you had your up to your knee or so had just completely broke through the. I don't know if you broke through the dam or if you slipped.
But you have no idea how deep that is, and I'm carrying a lot of weight. Like, I have no idea whose idea was to use beaver dams as bridges. Like, that's got to be some kind of environmental thing for the beavers themselves. But, like, they're not sturdy. They're hard, but like they're not safe in the way you would want a bridge. Right?
I was actually really surprised at how many beaver dam crossings that there were, because that must have been the third one.
Yeah,
there had been quite a few human-made bridges or like proper actually, you know what, it was probably on the easiest loop, had all of the properly built or boardwalks,
like logs across.
And then loop 2 probably had the logs, and then loop 3 I guess is just fucking beaver dams.
Or like it would be like you could kind of see where there was rocks you were supposed to jump across. Rock to that rock. I mean, none of it was like, I don't think you would die on any of it. It was all fairly safe as long as you knew what you kind of had some experience hiking and weren't completely out of shape. You could do them. But like the beaver dam was just kind of a weird thing to see. I would almost have expected I almost expected the opposite, where they'd be like, yeah, don't go near beaver dams. It's an animals.
Yeah, that's true. But for a lot of those too, it was like kind of you'd have to stop and have a discussion at a river creek and be like, okay, what are we supposed to do now?
Yeah,
like where are we supposed to go? And you're looking around for these stupid blue trail markers or Loop 2's yellow trail markers or Loop 3's red trail markers.
Rain, you can't always see them.
Yeah, it's really hard to actually see. And like, okay, like looking over there, you walk up and down, you're like, okay, I think we're supposed to go over there. And you can sort of see a trail, but I think once or twice we did take wrong turns, and we just went to a trail that went nowhere and had to turn around.
Yeah, but we overall we did pretty well, I think.
So you fall through or fall into the creek, and I laughed at you as any good friend would.
Yes, I lived.
But then,
and really at that point I was already so wet.
Yeah. So fair enough, right? At that point, you're already so like. I had a rain jacket, and my rain jacket was already wet, and you lent me, it wasn't a rain jacket, I guess, but like a fall jacket, and that just got totally soaked.
Yeah, that was soaked through. That was again something
that added an extra 10 pounds for me. I think
thing that was that was no longer waterproof. In this, that's waterproof if you're walking from like, to your car from your office.
Yeah.
It's not waterproof if you're hiking 15 kilometers through pouring rain.
No, definitely get something like rubber.
Yes. So, but the benefit of us having done so many more hours on like the worst day weather-wise was we woke up the fourth day and realized that if we pushed hard, it was something like 20 kilometers, we could just finish it all a day early.
Well,
and I feel like because it was supposed to be sunny that day, but the next day was supposed to rain again.
It was
All our stuff was like now 5 or 10 pounds heavier with rain.
Well, we got to that site after the third day, set up, and it was still like 2:00 or something. And then we set up our stuff and just sat in our respective tents for like 3 or 4 hours. I feel like, even though we're just like the tent's wet. You're wet. Your sleeping bag's wet. Everything was wet. That was definitely the coldest night. We both pulled out the emergency blankets for that one just to be safe.
Yeah, mine fell to pieces.
Oh, jeez.
It's definitely a one-use thing. You can't reuse those the kind of tinfoil looking blankets.
Yeah,
I
those
thought it was a bit
like
later than 2. I thought it was like 4 or 5 by the time we stopped.
No.
Because I remember we got to lunch. And it was like around lunch when we were like, we could actually just power through and get a lot further today.
Yeah, but I think that was still because it was only 10 kilometers. I think at like maybe it was 11. Then I can go back and look.
Not important. We did the next day, and then we kind of like the next morning when it was dry, we hung a bunch of our clothes up.
Yeah, the sun came out for like 20 minutes or something on that day.
We even though like the rules were against starting fires, we debated trying just so we could dry some stuff.
Yeah, at that point it was like kind of almost a hypothermia situation really because so we tried to start a fire but we couldn't because everything was just soaking wet. Even with no amount of like birch bark toilet paper and sticks would get it done. Even though I was shaving off the bark and getting to like the meaty part of the sticks and nothing was holding.
Yeah.
Even with we were using like the spray aerosol cans from bug spray to even start the fire.
Yeah.
And it wasn't going.
And so then we realized we got up, we got everything ready, and because
we checked the weather.
Yeah.
And realized that it was gonna be the coldest night.
Yeah.
The upcoming night was going to be the coldest night, and we were soaking wet.
And we didn't want to do that.
And because it was going to be colder than the night we just had, and we were going to, on top of being soaking wet and probably going to be soaking wet for the whole day, that we decided, or you suggested, like,
what if we just power through?
Let's just do the whole thing. And I'm doing the math in my head, and I'm like, it's going to be more than 20 kilometers.
Yeah, and we ended up saying that we would decide like around lunch whether we could do it. Basically, when we got to where
that for me, that was probably one of the biggest like mental blocks that I had to push through. And when you suggest that to me, I like went to the Thunderbox, sat there for I don't know however long I sat there, and just like convinced myself that we needed to that this was a good idea.
Yeah. Well, it was challenging, and I kind of liked that part of the challenge.
Actually, that was my favorite day.
It was fun.
For sure, that was my favorite day.
It helped that also because we went to bed so early the night before because it was just pouring rain and there was lightning and all that. That we were up pretty early the next day.
Yeah, we saved a lot of energy, and we couldn't make or boil water or anything because I couldn't even get the propane stove going. So we just literally went through all of the snacks and stuff that we had too. I had trail mix, and you had days worth of granola bars and
this is my mistake that I realize now. All the food I brought was dehydrated food. You needed to pour hot water in to get it made. I had to steal bread and candy and stuff from Doyle. So if you're planning a trip on this in the future, even if you use dehydrated food, it's great. It's very lightweight. It's easy to pack. You want something else there. Hopefully something without a scent that will attract bears. But
yeah, well, we didn't run into that, which is good.
The other thing with the last day was it was a lot more flat. I think at that point we were basically past most of the hills. There was a few in the beginning.
The end of it was second half of the last day. Yeah, was really nice.
It kind of went a few last hills getting smaller. Then it was flat and kind of just very nice clear forest, like the kind you would probably want to go for a day camping trip with family in. And then the last part was swamp.
Yeah, the swamp was brutal. The swamp was that's when all the mosquitoes came back.
Yeah, that was the army of mosquitoes.
Because we had bug nets on for a lot. I didn't even use it the first day.
Definitely bring a bug net.
I didn't use my bug net the first day, but I probably should have. But it was it was just so hot that first day. The second day, I had the bug net on. Third day, had the bug net on in the rain.
Yeah.
Fourth day, left with the bug net on, but ended up taking it off.
Yeah.
And that had so many good views, and it had some hills and some trails where you're just walking on a cliff, but beside a lake, which would be really cool at some points. And it had its own fair share of straight ups and straight downs. But once we got to that last campsite, which is the funniest thing to me, the only campsite that we actually booked to find was the one that we found on the last day. And then we were like, yeah, we're just going to keep going.
And the funny thing about trips like this is I love them. I always look forward to them. I'm happy I did them. But at the same time, when you're on the fourth or fifth day, you're happy that it's over.
Yeah, you're ready to be. You're ready for it to be over. I think that was super
we were both
helpful.
Right to go home and
mentality to have on that last day. And I'm like, oh, dude. I had one of my Orion coolers in the trunk of my car, and I knew I had a Monster Energy drink in there, and I was like, yes, I can't wait to have this Monster Energy drink right now. Because then even when after that, I still got to drive for 3.5 hours to get home.
Yeah.
And then you had to wait for Kayla to come get you from my house. Hopefully it wasn't too long of a drive for you guys, half an hour probably.
Yeah, 20 minutes. And then an hour long shower.
Jeez.
Not actually an hour long shower.
I didn't do that.
No, I think I probably I shampooed, soaped and everything 2 or 3 times just into the water.
You felt that awful.
Yeah, and I mean
listen, if it doesn't come off on your pants, it's not coming off on your food.
You try being as clean as you can. I brought wipes for my body, you brush your teeth and everything. But at the end of it, you're still just covered with dirt.
Yeah, you and I have a different, and I think it's probably because you are married and I'm not, that we have a different level of what cleanliness is.
Oh yeah.
Because I said that on the day. I was like, listen, Adam, if it doesn't come off on your hands, it's not, if it doesn't come off on your pants, it's not coming off on your food. And you're like, okay, you keep doing that and tell me how it goes. You're like, you got sanitizer and wipes and everything, making everything nice and clean. And I'm just like, it's good.
Learned that on the Common Army phase. Those hand wipes and stuff. That's your shower in a box.
Yeah,
if you don't have anything else.
What are you talking about? The whole third day was a shower.
That's true. The wrong type of shower. Being clean keeps you alive.
Yeah, it was. But I do want to talk about because it rained so much more than we thought it was going to rain on the last day. The hike ended up being a total about 22.6 I think, kilometers.
Okay, yeah.
On the last day, almost every creek, swamp, or river
Was swollen.
the bridges were flooded like crazy.
It was.
There was one part where the crossing had like floated away essentially, or and we so I think this was karma getting me back, but on one of the bridges I was just walking before you. It was a half log bridge. I'm walking in front of you because I don't know why. I'm a little bit lighter maybe. And I'm stepping, the bridge had like floated away, so I got to get like 10 feet across, and I'm trying to find the best way to go across it. I did the same thing as you did, but I went like, dude, I got a soaker almost all the way up to my crotch.
Yeah.
It was brutal.
And
I turned around, I'm like, don't go this way. And then I think you got a soaker too, but I don't know if it was as bad as mine.
No, that was literally I stepped on what I thought was solid ground, and then my foot went through about a foot of mud.
Yeah, frig. Even the bogs, man, or any kind of swamp, it's never as deep as you think it is. And it was so friggin' deep. Like I was in at least 3 feet of water of mud.
And this is something I felt like, so like the boots I had, Jesus, what's the brand name?
Solomon
boots. They were very good boots. You basically find two types of boots for this sort of thing, and I've had both before. One, the ones I had are made to be completely waterproof as possible. The other are made to barely be waterproof at all, but they also drain out. And I've had those before, and that usually works pretty well. So your feet get wet quickly, but then it stops being wet. These ones were supposed to be waterproof, and the second my socks or everything got wet, everything just was stuck inside. I ended up with big blisters on my feet. Even like I switched my socks out each time. I drained the water, but yeah, your foot goes underwater, water gets in, and then you're just walking in a puddle.
Yeah, I was wearing Keen hiking boots, and that would be another thing I would recommend buying and trying several times. But I use those boots all the time, so I assume that they would be good. I use them through all my hiking season. Just for the walking around portions, and they've always been good. They're not the best boots in the world, and they're not super waterproof like yours were, but again, they drained better.
Yeah.
And I wasn't walking around with chunks of water, but I don't know which day I got the blisters, but on the last day, man, I had blisters all over my toes on my left foot specifically, but on both feet. On the pinky toe, and just made it really hard to walk, like excruciatingly painful to walk. And I'm already like fresh off of a marathon weekend that had 4 black toenails already that make it really hard to walk. And I'm walking through these trails and just nasty, dirty, painful feet. It was just walking on. I can't even describe like. It's not pins and needles, but it's just excruciating pain that you can't really like push. You have to push through it, and I did push through it, but there was no way of like, it never went away.
Yeah, no, that's true. I do think though, like we both got pretty good boots. I like the Solomon ones were good. I found the best sock thing I did, because I tried a few different types. Like obviously you have to try ahead of time and break in your boots. It's like a very thin like silk sock, like the kind you would wear with dress shoes, and then like a thicker woolen or cotton one over it.
Oh, wool, yeah.
And I found that actually that like helped a lot with both keeping moisture out and then like stopping blisters. But obviously there's still so much you can do. Like if your boot's full of water, your boot's full of water.
Yeah, it was like kind of. Well, actually, having the sun out all day probably changed our moods drastically for that last day too. Just especially the difference from day 3 to day 4 was just
we definitely went a lot faster than
9 day. And and I think that if there was one thing that I would change or do differently is schedule less days and shorter hikes accordingly.
Yeah.
Like 10K would probably be the max for like a good day of hiking.
Well, yeah, it depends on what you want. Like, is it like you're just hiking for the physical challenge, or do you want to be able to stop and see what you're doing?
Well, that was it, right? Because on day 2 and sort of on day 3, but there was no stop and look at the scenery really, or not very much of it. It was just looking head down at my feet, making sure that they're still moving us pretty much, looking up occasionally to make sure I'm following a blue marker.
No, that's true. The other end of it though is, and I found this, there is, unless someone is doing, at least the way we planned it, the way we did it, 2 people, you're carrying all your food and everything, and the types of food we brought, the types of clothes we brought, there is definitely a limit to the amount of days you can go for, unless I guess you do it a completely different way, find different ways to pack, because really your bags can, first of all, your bags can only hold so much, and you can only carry so much. So I found like probably 5 or 6 days would be the limit for how we did it, and then beyond that, I would kind of wonder how you're packing enough food for each meal, enough clothes for each day, and you don't want to wear the same clothes the same underwear and stuff every day.
Yeah, at least you gotta at least change on underwear.
You will change,
and then have something dry because you had stuff in Ziploc bags even that got wet.
Yeah, I wrapped everything in Ziploc bags and like squeezed the air out of it. But even then, some of it got wet.
I don't even know how that would happen.
Fuck it. I mean, like, it was only like one. I think there was a hole in the bag, but like for the most part, line your rucksack with a garbage bag, and then put individual, like I had for every day, pair of socks, pair of underwear, shirt, wrapped in a Ziploc bag and air squeezed out of it, and that for the most part kept everything dry.
Yeah, if it's gonna rain and if you want to be comfortable,
and again doing that, and if you're changing your shirt and clothes every day, and socks and underwear every day, you can only carry so much.
Mm-hmm.
So like beyond like 5 or 6 days, I really don't know how you would keep packing. I'm sure there's someone out there who's
figure out a way to do laundry while you're out there.
Yeah. I'm certain there's someone right now who's like, I did a 12-day hike. I did a 50-day hike carrying everything I had. I don't know how you did that, but sure.
Well, yeah, jeez. Well, that's going to be even the West Coast Trail in the future, if we do it next year or the year after, is going to be something like that, like 6 or 7 days probably. Yeah, but again,
like that. 6 or 7 days ends up being, I feel like for us, the way we did it would end up being about the max before we would have to go somewhere, resupply our food, or clean our clothes.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose. Or just bring, like bow and arrow.
Yeah, fish, hunt.
Fishing would be a really good way. I did bring my fishing rod. I fished like one day.
But you can't.
Didn't catch anything.
Well, even if you did, I don't think you could, like, eat any. Like, if you caught anything in Algonquin Park, I think you have to throw it back.
No, you don't.
No?
Nope.
I thought that was
You can, as long as it's a legal thing.
Okay.
As long as that's all legal limits and stuff, you can keep stuff and eat it and cut it up.
I know you.
So okay. I know you can't use certain types of bait there, like you can't fish with minnows or anything like that. But if you're just doing what I was doing, throwing like a spinner on a spinning rod, yeah, no problems.
All right. So aside from that, so we saw a moose the first day.
The first day, you saw a horse.
That was just like my instant reaction.
We were walking up the sill. We come over. So 30 seconds before this, we hear crashing. We're walking up a hill. We hear crashing to the left of us, and I brushed off. I don't know.
I figured it was some kind of animal.
You're like, oh, what was that? And I was like, who cares? But then we come over the top of this hill, and this moose is trotting over the next crest of the hill, and you go, is that a horse?
Yeah, it was kind of just like it just took me a second to process what I was seeing, and when I saw its shape, my immediate thought was horse. Obviously, that wasn't the case. It basically just like you didn't even see it until it just came right onto the path and turned left onto the path. But it wasn't that far ahead of us.
No, it wasn't.
You don't see it at all until it's directly in front of you, and like it was running the other direction. So we only saw it for like 30 seconds. And then it disappeared somewhere else, and I have no idea. But yeah, I was like, my immediate thought was like, "Oh, a horse," and I realized, no, that can't be it. I very much doubt it's probably. We saw so much moose shit just everywhere.
Oh yeah, dude.
And
They
like,
probably use that path so much.
Given we only saw one moose, the amount of moose crap we saw was unbelievable.
Oh man, like, tons of it.
Let's see, we saw,
And then we ran into a group of hikers coming the other way, like not even 5 minutes after this moose sighting, and we were like, "Did you guys see it?" And they're like, "What are you talking about?"
moose.
Moose.
Yeah.
They're like, "No, I would have loved to see a moose." And we're like, "It came right at you. I don't know how you missed it."
Yeah.
But they hadn't seen anything, so it must have tapered off somewhere.
See, we saw
Easy
some
come,
beavers,
easy go.
a lot of squirrels, a lot of chipmunks, birds, of course. One time, so this was the morning of the third day. Sorry, the morning of the fourth day. So after the rainstorm and thunderstorm, I was in bed and I heard something walking around and like sniffing and grunting pretty loudly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I looked out the tent and I couldn't see what it was. Thought maybe I'd imagined it or it was off somewhere. I went back in the bed and then I heard it a bit more and I didn't check that time. And I'm wondering if that was like a moose. I wonder if it was a bear or like a wolf or something. It sounded basically like a really big dog, but I didn't see. I couldn't see what it
sounds
was.
like a bear.
Yeah,
to me,
and that was kind of my thought. It's like I don't know what I would actually do if I went out and it was just a bear walking through our campsite.
the bear would probably run away.
Probably, but
But you would have had to do that with your phone recording, though.
Oh yeah,
I'm surprised you didn't actually. I didn't hear any of that.
I heard it the first. I thought I remember mentioning it to you, and you said you heard something too.
Oh, maybe. I
But
don't
anyways,
remember.
I looked out the first time when I heard something like kind of grunting and sniffing around. I couldn't see anything. Kind of was freaked, like maybe it was a bear. I went back in. I heard it a few more times, and I didn't check the second time. But yeah, so I don't know what that was. And aside from that, like, what else did we see?
Because did you hear footsteps or anything?
Yeah, I heard footsteps and like a kind of
What did they sound like?
decently heavy, but like I don't know.
Like loud thuds. Because if it was like a raccoon, which was my first thought from hearing that, it would be
like pats.
yeah, it would sound pats are like very silent, like very similar to a squirrel, or similar to Cody, your dog. It'd
Yeah,
be
no,
very similar to that.
It sounded bigger than that, and again, it like the snuffing and the kind of grunting I heard sounded like a really big dog, which made me think maybe it was like a bear or a large wolf. Might have been a moose, and
Yeah.
my mind just kind of interpreted the sounds differently.
No, a moose, or I don't. As far as I know, they don't grunt. I guess not like that. They make more of like a type of noise.
I don't know, but whatever it was, I wasn't able to see what it was.
Next time.
Yeah. What other animals did we see?
On the third day, there was a mink or a ferret type of animal.
Yeah.
Came right up to me as I was boiling water.
Oh, cool.
And I freaked out actually, and they ran down past you because you were pumping water.
Oh yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
I was like, "Holy shit!" Because it scared me, and you were like, "What?" I'm like, "Oh, it's a mink. It's coming right at you," and then it like darted.
So some frogs.
Yeah, I guess I don't know.
So I guess
Then the next animal I remember was there being like a giant beaver right before we got to the last campsite that we didn't stay at, that we just walked past. It was a big beaver just chilling on the path. That also scared the crap out of me. But you didn't see it because you were a little bit farther behind me, I think.
No, but I saw beavers too. I don't remember that. I don't know if it's the same one.
I don't know, but all I remember is watching a beaver run away with that, like, its tail like flapping on the ground, and like if you've ever seen that one of those duck memes on Instagram where the duck's like got its butt wobbling towards whatever meme you're making.
Yeah.
It was very similar to that. Just like it scared me until it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Because animals running away from you with like, oh man, it's just, I don't know. Sometimes that stuff's so funny.
I did. So I like, so I guess the most interesting animals we saw were the moose and the beaver. Mm-hmm. And then I feel like we saw signs of a lot more. Like I said, we saw a lot of moose crap. We saw a lot of beaver dams or lodges.
I bet you there were a lot of animals that saw us, and we just didn't see them.
Like we saw a lot of different types of shit. I imagine I saw a bear shit at one point, but I wasn't certain. So they're there.
Yeah, it makes me think that throwing that food in the tree was such a waste of time.
Oh yeah, probably a good thing that they didn't all come after us. All right,
because there was not very many hikers out there, because it was, I guess, at the beginning of the summer and also raining, so people were probably smart enough to not book their trips during rain season.
There was a chance we almost had to cancel because of smoke and.
That's true too. Because there were 2 separate fires going on in Algonquin at that time.
They both fortunately kind of died before we went, and they were in the other end of Algonquin. So
and there was the forest fires from Quebec that just made it incredibly smoggy in general.
Yeah.
Not just at Algonquin, but here as well. Like can't even see across the street. It was so foggy or smoky. Really, smelled like bonfires outside. And then on the drive home, we saw. Well, I think I said it was a wolf, but now that I think about it, it was probably just a fox, like a big fox.
Oh yeah. I remember you mentioning that. Yeah.
That was the only. And
I remember seeing that.
And then my eyes were on the prowl for any kind of moose. Yeah. On the way home, and that just never happened.
Unfortunately.
And you probably could tell because I was all over the friggin' road.
Yeah.
And then you get home and you look at the Algonquin Facebook page or whatever, and there's people posting moose and bears like every 10 minutes apparently, and everyone's seeing them but us. I guess there's a lot of right place, right time type of thing.
We also, we were pretty loud.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, you have to be loud so bears don't come near you, but then you're also scaring away every other animal.
It's not like we were shouting or something. Like we kept conversation.
I think you naturally talk pretty loud.
I do talk pretty loud naturally.
But then I talk to myself, so yin and yang.
And I guess it's a good thing we didn't encounter any bears or wolves. Really,
I don't know. I would love to see a bear. To be honest, haven't seen one for like 2 years.
I told you I saw a bait or probably a teenage grizzly in.
A grizzly, yeah,
Banff.
in Banff, yeah, grizzly.
But that's the thing;
it's way friggin' different than.
It wasn't quite a cub; it was a bit bigger than that. But we were still if that's there, then the mother bear is somewhere around, and you don't want to be near the cub
bear
or the mother.
So that's kind of the totality of the trip. It's been a while, so maybe we haven't hit all the details. I know I was taking a lot of photos on the first day. And then once it started raining, my camera just never came out of my bag, to be honest. I had my GoPro on there too, but I didn't even use that when it started raining. Yeah.
So let's see. Things I found. Okay, so the Solomon boots were definitely a good investment. You definitely want really good hiking boots. The other thing I noticed with them, there was a few times when I would step in something, like a stick would break, the log I was standing on would break, or my foot would slip or something, and I realized if I didn't have really, really good boots on, I would have sprained my ankle, and then I would have sprained my ankle deep in the forest with a 50-pound bag and had no way of getting back.
And a scrawny friend to support you.
Packing my clothes and everything into Ziploc bags, lining everything with plastic was a great idea. The freeze-dry food, what was it, Mountain House?
Yours was Alpine.
Yeah, Alpine. It was really good. Especially they had a kind of spicy. They had a spicy Mexican one and then a 3-meat lasagna or something that was great. Their dessert was disgusting. The chocolate fucking cake. I had that once and I was so
disappointed. Chocolate cake was the nastiest thing. You're like, do you want some? I was like, hell no.
And it gets everywhere. It just it's like a package of mud when it's made. And the second you open it, it sprays out, and then it's not that. It doesn't taste like anything.
That's what it was called, though, wasn't it? It was called something
like mud pie or something like that. It was gross.
A bag of mud.
Would not recommend that. Would recommend everything else. The breakfasts were great. It was again some kind of I think it was Mexican eggs they called it or something. They added Mexican to a lot of it, and it just meant it was kind of spicy-ish.
Mm-hmm.
It was good. Your mashed potatoes and chicken thing was amazing.
Oh my god, dude, and I haven't even been able to find that Mountain House like anywhere else. But hey, relax, Cody.
So there's another wild animal. That's my dog.
Yeah, he's the guardian of the house.
Fuzzy brat.
Jody.
Oh, don't. Yeah, he's built like a sausage, thick and wide. What?
I was eating half Mountain House and half Alpine. My breakfast and desserts were Alpine, and all like the lunches and dinners were Mountain House. I had spaghetti and meatballs, for one, and I had that mashed potatoes and chicken, which was by far the best thing I've probably ever eaten out camping and hiking somewhere. And then I had beef stromboli, I think. Yeah. Which was awful.
Yeah, because it had mushrooms.
Didn't know there was. I didn't know there were mushrooms in beef stromboli. Had mushrooms. Not a huge fan of mushrooms.
Bourguignon, or was it stromboli or bourguignon?
What?
I never mind. It's not word. But
and then for breakfast I would actually eat dessert usually, some kind of apple crisp, and then same thing for dinner, some kind of apple or blueberry crisp, because I'm big on sugar. So
definitely though, like again, I mentioned that there was a time when we couldn't cook. I love that food, but definitely bring something that you don't need to.
Yeah. So we were like, I ended up bringing a whole Ziploc bag of some homemade trail mix. I had like dried kiwis. What else was in there?
Just having reserved
some kind of peanut M&Ms, and those sticks. I forget what the hell are they called?
Like the day before we did this, I like deliberately ate a whole lot of fresh fruit and vegetables, knowing I wasn't gonna get
Not gonna have that.
Your dried fruit definitely helped, but like that's definitely something if you're eating at least kind of healthy,
and I had like cheese sticks, pepperettes, and random things of like naan bread.
And it was great. The naan bread was amazing. Yeah, thanks for saving me there. Let's see, what else do we learn here? Bug nets were amazing.
So the bug nets is a big must, I would say. Maybe if it's more than 30 degrees, you won't need them. But for the most part, I would say bug nets was a huge.
Bring more toilet paper than you think you'll need, especially if you're not used to eating the food.
Is that a dig at me?
No. I mean, just in general.
You had 4 rolls. What do you mean?
No. How much do you shit?
Like, God damn.
I brought a shovel, thinking
Let's go over the list of stuff that was good to bring. Then
So that's what I'm trying to do here.
A waste of stuff.
So a lot of places recommend a shovel. When the day was supposed to rain, I kind of dug a trench around my tent to divert some of the water. I'm not sure that's helped.
Yeah, but you could have kicked it like with your boots, probably.
Yeah, well, one of the reasons they recommend is if you need to shit, you could dig the hole.
Yeah,
if you need to
go to the bathroom while you're hiking,
and that might have happened if like halfway through our 20-kilometer hike, one of us really needed to shit, and there was no thunderbox, but it never really came up.
No, it didn't. And the one time we did do that, we actually stopped at a campsite to eat lunch, and then ended up using the thunderbox there. So the shovel was like irrelevant for the whole thing.
Which is funny because like I'm torn between like it could have still have been useful, but I didn't end up using it.
Yeah.
And if you're not using it, it's a lot of extra weight that you doesn't, even a small shovel is still like 5 pounds.
I don't think it was 5 pounds. It's just like it's an odd size, somewhat annoying thing to have. Really. And the other thing that I brought that for some reason I thought we would have needed was a bucket. I don't even know why I thought we needed that. I thought we were going to need like a bucket of water for any reason, that like whether it was to do dishes or like wash your hands or whatever, that we would have this bucket. Literally never used it once, and I just ended up carrying it in my it was a collapsible bucket at least, and just carrying it on my backpack the whole time.
Bring environmental toothpaste, small toothbrush, something to wash your hands, hand sanitizer, and something to wash your knives and forks. You don't want a dirty knife. That was a dirty fork. That was good.
I would say quick drying clothing, like good comfortable, athletic, quick drying clothing.
I'm complaining about the towel, but the towel did end up being useful.
Not the towel,
well,
but the pants that I'm wearing right now are the same pants that I wore, and they the stuff that out of all the stuff that we put out in the sun as we were hanging around in our boxers at Rainbow Lake, these pants dried quicker than everything else that I had on there. And then even when I got the soaker, they dried pretty quickly after that while we were hiking.
Yeah, mine were the same.
So though, good, like these pants aren't cheap. They're like $120.
Yeah, obviously bug spray and sunscreen. Yeah. Mine were the same. Like we got cut off ones. I never end up making mine into shorts. You don't really want to be wearing shorts in the
mosquito infested.
Remember we saw that one couple at the end. They were going the opposite direction from us. It was two guys. They really didn't look like in shape, and they were wearing like not just like shorts, but like I don't know. I want to say like boomer shorts.
What does that mean?
They were like kind of like I think one of them had like cargo shorts, and one of them had just like regular shorts, but they weren't like something you would expect to do athletics in. They were
long
just
hiking.
Yeah, they were just like regular cotton shorts and shirts. They had their bags on, and they were wearing running shoes.
Dude, and they had the full like big propane stove. Like they were carrying it in a.
No, that was the
wasn't
other.
it?
That was the other group we passed.
Oh,
yeah,
man, I don't remember.
So we briefly passed.
Oh, you're talking about the two dudes.
Yeah, the two old. They were a bit older.
The two dudes that were boomers.
They were kind of they were kind of like literally if you picture like a stereotypical dad, that's how these people were dressed. That's how they looked. A bit hot bellied, and they were doing like a 4 or 5 day hike, and I just looked at them and I was like, "Are you gonna survive? like you're not like you realize you're gonna be like bushwhacking here. I don't know if shorts are you're gonna get like infected with something." And you're wearing running shoes. You know, you're gonna spring. And then the other one we saw, they brought their dog with
the second couple with the dog,
and they were she was literally just carrying.
They had so much stuff.
Burner.
Didn't they have something with like wheels too?
Yeah,
weren't they wheeling something like a backpack?
And they were doing like a shorter trail. They said, but even then, it was like your hand is gonna be killing you.
Oh yeah, and they were lost still too. And even though they were still on the one trail, we probably talked to them for a good 5-10 minutes, and she kept saying about how there were no trail markers and stuff, and she just kept walking in circles from Thunderbox to Thunderbox, and that just made me super confused.
What was her map again? I remember
her map was on her phone, but it wasn't a GPS map. It was just like a photocopy and then a digital version of that photocopy. Yeah, and she's trying to follow it, and she's like, "Yeah, we're looking for this lake, and we just went to here, but we couldn't find it." Because they were getting lost between Thunderboxes somehow, and they came back out to this path, and they were just asking us how far it was to the lake that we were just at. That name I can't remember.
So please, if you're going to do something like this, look up what you're doing and practice before committing to like a 4 or 5 day hike.
Well, they were only going to be doing loop 1,
which is a bit easier, but still, like that's a lot to carry in your hand.
It was
not even on your back.
I couldn't believe it when they had the suitcase propane stove. Honestly, I could not imagine carrying that around.
Let's see, stuff that would have been useful. I feel like if we brought an extra water thing, might have been a good idea.
What kind of a water thing? I'll tell you what I should have done before we left is check that fucking filter.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the filter that I had for my water filter was basically dead. Like I needed a new filter, but I didn't know that at the time.
Yeah, no, but like on like the second or third day, your water filter basically because I guess we had
stopped filtering.
Yeah, it stopped filtering. We ended up having to clean it, and we cleaned it a few times there. But I kind of realized it's like our safety relies on this one little piece of plastic that filters water. Maybe we should have brought a second one in case it broke.
Or like water tablets or something.
Yeah.
We could always boil the water.
That's true, unless it's pouring rain and your stove won't start.
Well, then you just hold the bucket and catch the rainwater.
And then if you're certain that rainwater is safe to drink.
There I would be all right with it, I think. I mean, maybe not around here, but.
I mean, if you're going to die, you can just go into a lake and drink water and pray.
Well, yeah, that first guy, he was using dissolvable water tablets for his because he was like, yeah, this is the worst tasting thing in the world.
Oh yeah, no, it's not.
But that my pump filter of the pump needed to be replaced for sure. And I just, I apologize because I never even considered that a possibility. I was like, there's no way I've done 2,000 liters of water in this. But you probably did 100 by yourself in those 4 or 5 days.
I drank a ton of
Jeez.
water. It's good. It's a sign of health.
Yeah. But yeah, then when I went home, I went to Cabela's and I got a new filter, and I sent you a picture of like a clean filter versus like beside mine. Ugh, disgusting. Maybe not disgusting, but we got through it though. You just had to either go very slowly or clean the filter after every time you use the pump, and that seemed to work for the time being. I think any longer would have been a little bit frustrating.
So, what do you think was the best part of the trip?
I don't know what that means. The best part, just like that whole last day. I think after because it was definitely the most fun and the most enjoyable. And
knowing that
maybe that was only because we knew all the pain and suffering was going to come to an end.
Yeah, because it was finally sunny again. But yeah, definitely knowing that you're going towards the end is nice. But even then, there was like a few spots.
But even though the hike was longer, we stopped like 3 or 4 times just to like stand and look at how. That was the one day I feel like we actually appreciated the beauty of the nature and stuff, and all of those like river crossings and like falling into the water, like getting soakered up to my crotch. All we could like laugh all that stuff off almost. Whereas like on the other days, probably would have had a way different maybe attitude towards it.
At the same time, I think I feel like on the first day, a lot of what we were going through was kind of like shrubby, so you couldn't really see as much. Like you couldn't see as far through the trees, basically.
Right.
The second day it started raining. The third day it poured rain, and then on the last day, it was clear. The air was clear. The woods were a lot clearer, so you could see a lot more. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I was going to mention that too. Like there's a few parts. Like I remember us stopping at the top of one hill and just kind of looking out over like mountains and lakes and stuff. So it was absolutely gorgeous, which again you can only really do when the weather's clear. And I feel like that was one of the better parts.
Yeah, that's true. If I mean when it was pouring rain, there's nothing to look at.
Overall, it was
unless you like rain.
It was definitely exciting adventure.
Overall, I would say very good. Things I would change: shorter hikes.
I would like. Well, my thought is
maybe better weather planning. Better, from a personal standpoint, better planning.
If I could, like, because I imagine both in terms of trying to take times off work and whatever you're spending to book it might be more difficult. But it'd be a good idea to book 2 periods, like 2 or 3 weeks apart. As you get up to the first one, check the weather, and if the weather is going to be shit, just don't go and go for the second one.
Yeah. Have like backup.
And once again, as I mentioned before, it's not just like, oh, if you can tough through the rain, you can tough through the weather, whatever. Yes, you can. And sure, if you want that as your accomplishment, but you're basically just removing the fun parts of hiking. You're not seeing the scenery. You're not enjoying much. You're not going to be able to stop and sit out or anything like that. You're just.
But there's like there is a balance to it, because I think if that third day wasn't so miserable, would you have enjoyed the last day as much as you did?
I feel like,
and I don't think I would have, to be honest.
Honestly, to be honest, like
because that changed, my whole attitude changed after that.
Oh, I see. I like in general, like if we got like if just 4 or 5 days of clear, mild weather, like warm, not hot, not cold, just like perfect. I feel like I would have just loved every single aspect of it.
That's true.
And obviously overall I did enjoy it, but you can also say when it's pouring rain, it's not as nice.
You did point out every single giant boulder.
Oh yeah, the boulders were gorgeous. That's kind of the other thing. Like if you're going up and down mountains, it's a lot more difficult. It's also a lot cooler. It's a lot nicer, right?
Yeah.
Like you get to see all the scenery. You get to see like these like cliffs and.
Sometimes it was cool. Like even on those super difficult inclines, you could walk up it, turn around, and like you're looking straight down a cliff, and you're like,
oh yeah, I did that.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I just went up that. Just made that cliff my bitch.
I was like Donkey from Shrek, just like, that's a nice boulder. I like that boulder.
Yeah. Oh man. Dad jokes, knocking on trees, and talking about boulders.
Told, but yeah.
I don't know, dude. Every dad joke in the book, I'm surprised you have them all memorized or something.
Yeah, you know when you pass a flock of cows, and then you say, "You mean a herd of cows?" Yes, of course I've heard of cows. There's a flock of them over there.
We didn't. That one thing we didn't get to do though. You know, we didn't get to fulfill your dream of a moose and a goose.
Oh yeah. I want
seeing a moose and a goose at the same time.
I wanted to take I wanted to see if I could take a picture of a bunch of moose at the same time and a bunch of geese at the same time, and then I'd post online that I saw the picture and say a flock of meese and a herd of gooses. Just see how people respond.
Honestly, I was surprised that we had a flock of geese fly over us once.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
I did not expect that at all.
Why not?
Well, I don't know. I just never expected it in Algonquin.
Yeah. What time is it?
It is 7:23. We've been talking for an hour and 20 minutes.
I do need to feed my dog.
Okay. Well, we can end this. I think I don't have anything else that I could think of to add. And this is already a longer version of the podcast, but rightly so. This is
would highly
build
recommend
up for a while
doing a trip like this, and would highly recommend make sure you prepare beforehand.
Yeah. Learn from our mistakes or my mistakes
and mine.
Bring just follow the advice.
I feel like the biggest thing, like water, and then make sure your boots are good. I actually went to different stores beforehand. I went to one thing, and the person straight up told me, like, the boots we have here are not going to do for what you have. They're technically hiking boots, but not like that. I ended up looking up a lot of different brands before I got those ones. And you get the wrong one, you're screwed.
Honestly.
Your ankles, like, you're carrying 40, 50 pounds on your back up a mountain, your ankle's going to break if your shoes are shit.
Good to know. So on that note,
yep,
we are going to end the podcast. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming. I think you listened to some of the other ones. There, share this one with all your family and friends. Give us a like, comment on what you have. If you have any questions or recommendations or anything, leave a comment, rate, subscribe, share with your friends, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Awesome.
Bye.